This is Qtv News. I am Mariatu Sidibe and thanks for joining us. Now, the main local, international and sports news headlines. The Ministry of Justice, in collaboration with the Independent Electoral Commission on Wednesday, began a two-day stakeholders validation workshop on the new draft elections bill. National Assembly members began their sittings on Thursday, addressing concerns over the maternal mortality rate in the country less than 24 hours after a peaceful march was organized to raise awareness of the issue. The World Health Organization's country representative has warned Gambians that the coronavirus pandemic is not yet over in the country. Reacting to the rejection of the draft constitution bill by National Assembly members, the leader of the UDP, Usainu Dabo, says under any Gambian constitution, only three things can prevent him from contesting the 2021 presidential election. The Ministry of Fisheries has today officially handed over artisanal fishing boats to 10 communities. In international news, after a 4-month investigation into the death of a black woman in the U.S., the Kentucky Attorney General has ordered the arrest of the officer whose careless act contributed to her death. And in sports, Senegal's 28-year-old first-choice keeper has been signed by Chelsea on a £22 million 5-year deal. Now, the local news in detail. Now, the local news in detail. The Ministry of Justice, in collaboration with the Independent Electoral Commission on Wednesday, began a two-day stakeholders validation workshop on the new draft elections bill. More in this report.
Following the Independent Electoral Commission's consultation with political parties and stakeholders in February 2020, the Ministry of Justice prepared a draft election bill incorporating the recommendations received. At a two-day workshop, the Solicitor General and Legal Secretary at the Ministry of Justice, Cherno Marena, said the country's current election laws are the byproduct of the 1996 election decrees, adding that political parties and other stakeholders never had a say in the formulation of that law. Therefore, the workshop provides a unique opportunity for political parties to shape the electoral laws.
This law will provide the rules of the game. And any player in any game would want to know and accept the rules first before you participate. So this is the whole essence of this validation. We want all the political parties and political players in this country to really take ownership of the law, of the rules governing the election in which they are going to participate.
The chairman of the Independent Electoral Commission, Ali Momar Njai, said his office is committed to creating a level playing field for all political parties to ensure a free, fair and transparent election, adding that the new draft election bill will help provide that.
There are some objections and some recommendations that we made, which we hope now will not incorporate into the bill. But there are certain things that we have to include in the process so that everybody will be satisfied.
The leader of the People's Progressive Party, Papa Njai, described the new draft election bill as historic, adding that people should take ownership of the document, while appealing to political parties not to politicize the bill.
That's one particular area that I'm very much concerned about. As we have more political parties, I think it's about time we do away with colors. We start to emphasize more on symbols, because I saw one of the political parties has two colors, and one of the colors represents another political party. So that is itself a confusing message that we do not want to see happen.
The APRC representative, Mam Senabu Njai, believed that diaspora Gambians should now be excluded from voting, as the new draft constitution, in which their voting rights were captured, did not progress through parliament to go through a referendum.
The right to vote, because it's not in the constitution. But if the constitution was on and it was voted yes, we will leave it as it is. But as far as it's not voted yes, the constitution, it's thrown out, and the draft constitution is thrown out, is voted no. So I don't think it should be there, because it was not there.
The National People's Party representative, Sidi Njai, sees the draft as an instrument that will create free, fair and transparent elections, as it represents the views and aspirations of all political parties.
We have the 1997 Constitution, which is the supreme law of the country, and it has prescribed the mode of elections, either first past the post or absolute majority, and it is not prescribed in the 1997 Constitution. So therefore, it might not be prudent to put it in the bill.
At the end of the 2 days validation, participants are expected to come up with a final document that will represent the views and aspirations of all political parties for smooth, free, fair and transparent election in the future. Reporting for Qtv News, I am Omar P. Jallo.
Less than 24 hours after a peaceful march was organized to raise their voices about the increase in maternal mortality in the country, National Assembly members on Thursday began their sittings addressing concerns over the matters. And they heard the Minister of Health say the figures are decreasing compared to previous years. This story by Babu Karsi is narrated by Omar P. Jallo.
I think it's the duty of every country, governments, national assemblies, to ensure that no woman dies during childbirth, during pregnancy.
Some of us women, when we pregnate our women, we never give them good food because forgetting that this woman is feeding another child inside, we never give them good food. All what we think of is the naming ceremony. We accumulate money, we never give them good food to eat. And the other thing is, how many women will deliver that would need blood? Because during their pregnancy, they face malnutrition.
These were some of the concerns and questions raised about the rate of maternal mortality in the country. The debate came less than 24 hours after dozens had gathered to protest about this. The organizers of the protest said they want to alert the government through the Ministry of Health and other relevant stakeholders about the spike of maternal deaths in the country. The first institution to have a chance to react and raise concern in response to their cry is the National Assembly. Responding to the concerns raised, the Minister of Health, Dr. Ahmed Lamin Samate, first began by informing the lawmakers that the maternal mortality rate in the country is reducing.
It is important to note that in this country, maternal mortality has been on the decline, notwithstanding the perception of the rise in maternal mortality. It is important to emphasize that it is actually on the decline.
Minister Samate stressed that every single life matters. Those in remedying the situation, there are basic things we need to observe, which we are not.
Many of our people, especially in the provinces, even before they get pregnant, and even in the urban settings, are malnourished, and this is worsened in pregnancy. This has been found to lead to anemia in pregnancy, which is one of the leading causes of maternal mortality.
On the difficulties faced by his ministry, Dr. Samate stressed that the amount of personnel needed in the health sector is still low and touched on other areas related to maternal mortality rate.
The Gambia, being a low-income country, has serious manpower challenges. The number of doctors in high-income countries, the average is 2.9 doctors per 1,000 population. For low-income countries, it has been put to 0.3 per 1,000, being acceptable.
According to the WHO, maternal mortality is unacceptably high. About 295,000 women died during and following pregnancy and childbirth in 2017. The vast majority of these deaths occurred in low-resource settings and most could have been prevented. Sub-Saharan Africa and Southern Asia accounted for approximately 86% of the estimated global maternal deaths in 2017. Sub-Saharan Africa alone accounted for roughly 2/3 of maternal deaths, while Southern Asia accounted for nearly 1/5. Reporting for Qtv News, I am Omar P. Jallo.
In an exclusive interview with QTV, the World Health Organization's country representative has warned Gambians that the coronavirus pandemic is not yet over in the country. Amidst low public turnout on daily testing for COVID-19, Dr. Tessa Tyrone has urged people with COVID-19 related symptoms to go for testing for an effective containment of the virus. Momodu Lamenchoy reports.
The Gambia is one of the 26 countries where there is more than 20% decrease in the number of new cases.
Our COVID-19 numbers are dwindling daily, a promising sign for some, while others warn that we are yet to reach the end of the road. By this, they mean the virus is not yet flushed out of the country, but our reluctance to be tested, even when it is necessary, is said to be among the contributing factors to the low numbers of recorded COVID-19 cases. This has the potential to compromise effective tackling of the virus because health experts risk losing track of COVID-19 infections in the country.
Please go and get tested. That's where we can know how many people will be having symptoms are getting COVID-19. Otherwise, it will be very difficult to know the trend of the disease.
Latest COVID-19 reports in the Gambia show that there have been more asymptomatic registered cases who are currently undergoing home isolation, while those with symptoms, serious health complications, or are without the capacity to home isolate are placed under the Ministry of Health's designated treatment centers.
Don't do testing among those people who are symptomatic. We cannot really stop transmission into the other members of the community. So that's why it's very important. Testing is very important for people to get quickly tested and know their status and then follow the advice that are given by the health workers.
Scientists believe that COVID-19 patients without symptoms of the virus can be infectious but are less likely to transmit the virus than those with symptoms. In the Gambia, it is observed that more people without are being tested than those with COVID-19 symptoms. According to Dr. Tironi, this can be attributed to either our daily test figures constituting more people entering the country being subjected to mandatory testing or local people without COVID-19 related symptoms showing up for testing.
So because of that, the percentage that will be positive will decline because these are not people who are with symptoms or who are sick. So this is a normal trend that you will see as the people who are tested are not having symptoms or are not sick, it will be the proportion positive will be declining. This is what we are noticing.
Though the number of COVID-19 confirmed cases in Africa are dropping, experts are flagging up that the true scale of the pandemic on the continent might be hidden due to inadequate testing and issues with data. The average daily COVID-19 test in the Gambia is 250, even in the face of pervasive community transmission of the virus and the low level of public compliance with some of the COVID-19 restrictions, including face mask wearing.
The Ministry of Health is working very hard with partners to strengthen our response strategies by the day. There is continuous community engagement and the involvement of various community leaders in sensitizing the people in their various districts.
The COVID-19 figures in the Gambia as of the 24th of September stand at 10 new laboratory confirmed cases, 1,430 currently have the virus, a total of 3,552 confirmed positive cases, out of which 2,012 have recovered and 110 have died of the virus. Containing the deadly virus needs more public cooperation. While health officials look for more strategies to win the battle against the coronavirus pandemic, the security must ensure enforcement of public health regulations for a collective and effective fight against COVID-19. Mohamed Lamin Choi, Qtv News.
The United Democratic Party on Wednesday organized a press conference to react to the rejection of the draft constitution bill by the National Assembly. Lamin Dabo has more.
This press briefing came in the wake of one of the most dramatic days seen at the National Assembly when on Tuesday members voted by a narrow margin to reject the draft bill seeking to give the country a new constitution. Speaking to journalists, the UDP leader and Secretary General Usainu A.N.M. Dabo says September 22, 2020 is just like 22nd July 1994, adding that what happened will go down in Gambian history as a day of grave betrayal.
As a day of great betrayal by a minority of people who are either ethically compromised or motivated by narrow sentiments from defending the values of our collective salvation. We endured an oppressive regime, lost great sons and daughters of this country who gave up their lives during the struggle to break the circles of autocratic rule and ensure that the Gambia and Gambians enjoy our fundamental freedoms and constitutional rights without any fear.
Dabo went on to explain more on the rejection of the draft constitution, which he describes as a move that does not in any way represent the will of the majority of Gambians.
I will like to call on all other political party leaders, civil society actors, and other stakeholders to add their voices to the demand, answers, and hold the government, including the Attorney General, who failed to defend the bill to the best of his ability, accountable.
In addition to thanking the National Assembly members who showed support for the draft constitution bill, the UDP Secretary General has this to say.
I would also like to extend our deepest gratitude to the entire CRC team for their demonstrated hard work throughout the entire process. Their drive, dedication, and commitment over the years is undeniable, and we are grateful for all the efforts made to draft a constitution which is reflective of the needs and the reality of the Gambian people. The Gambia is forever indebted to them.
Responding to journalists during the question and answer session, Usainu Dabo says under any Gambian constitution, only 3 things can prevent him from contesting the 2021 presidential election.
3 things will prevent me from contesting the 2021 elections under any constitution, whether 2021 or even if this draft had gone. Only 3 things will prevent me. 1, I am ill, in fact, mentally incapacitated, physically incapacitated, I'm dead, or the UDP does not select me as their candidate. These are the things that will prevent me.
Following the rejection of the draft constitution bill on Tuesday, Gambians have been expressing divergent views about the incident, and what is now certain is that the draft constitution will forever be remembered as the first such draft to go to such a wide national and international consultation. For Qtv News, Lamin Alaifan Indabo.
The Ministry of Fisheries has today officially handed over artisanal fishing boats to 10 communities. The boats are expected to increase community participation in the fishing sector, generate employment and revenue for the beneficiary communities. Momori Lamin Choi again.
The Fisheries Ministry has funded the construction of 14 boats with new engines and fishing gear, altogether costing about $4.7 million for the artisanal fishing sector. 10 of the 14 new boats have been handed over to 10 communities on a loan basis, whose 40% of catch will be used as monthly loan payment to the Ministry of Fisheries and the balance going to the communities. The beneficiary communities are hopeful that the fishing boats will improve their livelihoods.
Anyone who provides you with a fishing boat with its engine wants you to benefit from it and sustain your family's needs. And this is what government is doing for the youths and the elders by coming up with this initiative.
Of the 14 boats, the Ministry of Fisheries sets aside 2 of them for monitoring of our waters against illegal fishing, while 2 others meant for training of people on fishing practices.
This will be used in the inland in order to ensure that our fish resources are safe from illegal fishing. So today we are gathered here in order to witness the handing over of these boats, these 3 categories of boats. One category is for fishing, the other for IUU fishing, and the others for training.
National Assembly members at this event are not only expressing appreciation for this development by the Fisheries Ministry, but also stressing the need for a strong surveillance and monitoring mechanism of our waters against illegal fishing and prosecution of defaulters of the fishing regulations.
Let them intensify the surveillance and try to stop this illegal fishing. Let them arrest, let them prosecute at the highest level. That is going to deter. But if you arrest, you don't do anything, the others will come. And the more they come, the more they destroy. And your expectation for the payment of this loan is going to be very difficult.
At least 90% of the Gambia's fishing sector is dominated by foreign-owned boats and trawlers. By mobilizing funds and providing communities with fishing boats, the Ministry of Fisheries hopes to encourage more participation by Gambians in the fishing sector.
people complain there is lack of fish. And one way of addressing that is to increase the participation of Gambians in this sector. We must be ready to brave the waters. We must be ready to become fishermen. This is why we have decided to issue our 2 boats to train Gambians in the coastal area and in the inland sector to become fishermen.
Fish is one of the most basic needs for most Gambians, but in recent times, the country has registered low stocks of fish, leading to a sharp rise in prices in markets. The problem lies not only in the few Gambians taking part in the fishing sector, but our low capacity to police our waters against exploitation. A problem the Minister of Fisheries said it is working towards addressing. Mohamed Lamin Choi, Qtv News.
We will go for a short commercial break, and when we come back, the news continues with some more local, international and sports news stories. Do stay tuned. Welcome back. Officials of the National Nutrition Agency NANA and other partners recently visited Fuladu East in URR to implement the Nafa Quick Cash Transfer Project. Alhaji A.F. Jallo reports.
The Nafa Quick Cash Transfer Project aims to mitigate the social and economic impact of COVID-19 on poor families. The officials visited the village of Basending, Sambatako, Giroba, Alonhare, and Sabusire in Fuladu East District. The program facilitator for NANA, Malang Fofana, tells us more about the targeted beneficiaries of the Nafa project in 20 districts in the Gambia.
The first component tried to ensure that we strengthen the coordination mechanism of social safety net in the country. And that will stay forever. Because currently, there are a number of institutions that are engaged in safety net projects, but there's little coordination, and sometimes we duplicate each other, sometimes there are relief gaps in some areas. So there's a need for a national coordination mechanism to ensure that all the interventions are coordinated in a way that we will complement rather than duplicate each other. The second component is the Nafa program. The Nafa program has 2 components. The Nafa proper intended to target about 15,606 households in 20 poorest districts based on the poverty gap and poverty head count from the Integrated Household Survey in 2015-2016.
Catherine Kutojiba Omo, Monitoring and Evaluation Officer at NANA, said the ongoing cash transfer process is going smoothly, even though they are faced with minor challenges.
We realize that some of the names that are on the vouchers is different from the identity card, the voter's card also. So what we normally do is we just have to make sure that, because for the payment to be done, they have to ensure that the names on the ID card or the voter's card is the same. So we will now correct those information, and then this will also be changed in the MIS system that I mentioned earlier on. So basically, we are able to keep track of the individuals, because each potential household has an SR number. Because we have seen some instances where people try to inflate the numbers. You understand? We know that we know each other. There are some households that you know that this particular household is a single household, maybe 2 households. But then sometimes we have seen instances where you will have 4 or 5 households in that particular compound. So what that will do is you are trying to deny other people that we are supposed to be on board. You understand? But again, we are registering new people. We call them, those are the people that we that we deal with lastly. But every potential household that is in the intervention site is supposed to receive this money.
Haja Setu Silla, a beneficiary in Alonhare village, said they will use the money for the upkeep of their families and thank the government, the World Bank and implementing partners for their assistance. This money came at the right time. Life is so difficult, especially during this pandemic period. We are so delighted that government and donor partners for understanding our plight. We thank them for their assistance. The Nafa Quick Cash Transfer Project will provide 2 cash transfer of $3,000 to 83,000 households in 30 districts across the country. It is a $31 million initiative supported by the World Bank called the Gambia Social Safety Network Project. Reporting for Qtv News, I am Alaji F. Jallo.
More than $300,000 worth of medical items have been donated to the Ministry of Health Central Medical Store by Support Our Own charity for use in the fight against COVID-19. Lole M. Kamara has more.
Support Our Own charity under the One Banner initiative for COVID-19 was formed by ex-students of Marina International School to help people and institutions at all times, including in this time of the coronavirus pandemic. According to its members, the association has raised $1.4 million to support frontline health workers, institutions like the Gambia Red Cross, the vulnerable and needy in society. Presenting the medical items, Paul Semekajane, a member of Support Our Own initiative, said the medical supplies have been made possible thanks to the generous donations from Gambians and friends of the Gambia.
We are able to identify the following items, which we are donating today. We have 500 adult non-rebreather masks, 25 pulse oximeters, 30 oxygen flow meters, 1,000 vials of heparin, 3,000 vials of dexamethasone, and 10,000 tablets of dexamethasone. These, without a doubt, will help save lives.
Paul Semekajane thanked the Ministry of Health for its efforts in leading the fight against the pandemic, adding that they will continue to do their utmost to support the ministry. Receiving the items, Babandin Sabali, the Director of Pharmaceutical Services, said the items are vital and will contribute towards helping save lives, especially COVID-19 patients.
These are very essential items. They will contribute, I said again, in helping save lives of Gambians. That's the contribution we are going to look at, because every life matters, and saving life is a sacred responsibility. And these people are going to do that by contributing these very essential items to the Gambian people and people living in the Gambia.
Mr. Sabali assured the donors that the items will be used for the intended purpose. For QTV News, Lolly M. Kamara.
We will take another short break and we continue with international and sports news when we return. Welcome back. In international news, after a 4-month investigation into the death of a black woman, Breonna Taylor, in the U.S., the Kentucky Attorney General has ordered the arrest of Officer Brett Hankinson, whose careless act contributed to Taylor's death. Marie-Louise Nthanyang reports.
The death of Breonna Taylor have awakened America's Black Lives Matter movement, which that took the U.S. by storm, spreading to many parts of the world. The 26-year-old Taylor was killed in her room when 3 plainclothes police officers executed a no-knock warrant. On Wednesday, the 2 officers involved in the death were deemed to have been justified for firing their weapons into her apartment, while another was charged with recklessly firing into a neighboring unit. Breonna Taylor was in her room with her boyfriend Kenneth Walker when the officers entered. Walker said he assumed they were victims of a break-in. Firing a shot from his pistol, 3 officers then returned fire. The police said they knocked before entering her apartment, but Taylor's family and the neighbors said they did not. During the protest on Wednesday, The judge's decision not to indict the police officers on charge directly related to Breonna Taylor's death. 2 officers were sued. On Taylor's killing, the investigation found that 6 bullets struck the 26-year-old as the officer shot her several times. Taylor's death played a major role in renewing a nationwide protest against police brutality and racism, known as the Black Lives Matter movement. After a squad of officers had dispersed demonstrators, Interim Police Chief Robert Surunda said 2 officers had been wounded by gunfire. He described the situation as very dangerous, adding that the 2 injured officers were stable and a suspect was in custody. Hundreds of protesters had taken to the streets chanting, "No justice, no peace." Lawyers for Taylor's family called the lack of charges outrageous. The family lawyer said, Taylor had no criminal record but was killed. Last week, the city of Louisville settled a wrongful death suit with Taylor's family with $12 million. However, the family has said the money will not bring back their loved one and that what they most want is justice. Kentucky Attorney General Daniel Cameron said, "This is an unpleasant emotional case. There is nothing I can offer them today to take away the grief and heartache as a result of losing a child, a niece, a sister, and a friend." Since Taylor was killed, among those keeping her name in the spotlight have been black sports stars, tennis champion Naomi Osaka, who wore a face mask with Taylor's name on it, and Formula One world champion Lewis Hamilton. At the latest race, he wore a top which read, "Arrest the cops who killed Breonna Taylor." As has already been demonstrated, the latest charge of one officer is unlikely to silence the calls for justice. Marie-Louise N. Sanyang for QTV News.
And in sports, Edouard Mendy, a 28-year-old and Senegal's first-choice keeper, is coach Frank Lampard's 7th summer signing and will compete with Kepa and Willie to be Chelsea's first choice. More in this report.
Edouard Mendy follows in the footsteps of Chelsea's current technical and performance advisor, Peter Cech, who in 2004 moved from Rennes to Stamford Bridge. In signing for the London club, Mendy thus becomes the latest in a long line of Senegal players to have made it to the Premier League, globally the most watched football league. Mendy arrives just when current first choice, Kepa Arrizabalaga, is going through difficult times, including making a lot of errors during the recent game against Liverpool, giving away the second goal to Sadio Mane. Mendy kept 9 clean sheets in 24 League One appearances last season with Rennes, helping them to qualify for the Champions League for the first time in their history. It's a dream for me to be part of this exciting squad and to work with Frank Lampard and all of his coaching staff. I am so excited to be joining Chelsea and looking forward to meeting my teammates and can't wait to get started, Mendy said, speaking to the BBC. Mendy was born to a Senegalese mother and a Bissau-Guinean father. He played for Guinea-Bissau in friendly matches but chose Senegal to continue his international career. He made his debut for Senegal in a 1-0 win over Equatorial Guinea on 18th November 2018 and went on to play 8 matches, conceding 1 goal. Edouard Mendy was in Senegal AFCON 2019 squad and the first 2 games against Tanzania and Algeria, but was ruled out due to a broken finger sustained during the Taranga Lions warm-up before their final Group C game against Kenya. Ajibintu Drame, QTV News.
The former first vice president of the Confederation of African Football, Ambachi Pinnick, who is also the president of the Nigerian Football Federation, has emerged as a possible candidate for the presidency of African football's governing body in elections set for March 2021 in Morocco. More in this report.
With CAF President Ahmad yet to decide his future as CAF president, Amaju Pinnick, the head of Nigerian Football Federation, has emerged as a potential candidate. Pinnick rarely speaks on the subject but told the BBC that he will see the possibilities of such an approach because there are some cracks in CAF and he will consult his family first. Pinnick, despite supporting Ahmad's presidency, denounces his management of the CAF. In the beginning, the idea was to have the incumbent Ahmad re-elected for a second or even a third term, Pinnick said. However, that has changed since he was ejected last year from his position as vice president of CAF for what he claims was no good reason. Pinnick now believes that many things are fundamentally wrong with the CAF and that its credibility is at all-time low. Pinnick 47 has until 12 November to decide whether to throw his hat into the ring for the elections, which are scheduled for 12 March 2021 in Rabat, Morocco. Ajibintu Drame, Qtv News.
Before we end this bulletin, let's take a quick look at our main stories. The Ministry of Justice, in collaboration with the Independent Electoral Commission, on Wednesday began a two-day stakeholders validation workshop on the new draft elections bill. The National Assembly members on Thursday began their sittings addressing concerns over the maternal mortality rate in the country less than 24 hours after a peaceful march was organized to raise awareness of the issue. The World Health Organization's country representative has warned Gambians that the coronavirus pandemic is not yet over in the country. The Ministry of Fisheries has today officially handed over artisanal fishing boats to 10 communities. In international news, after a 4-month investigation into the death of a black woman in the U.S., the Kentucky Attorney General has ordered the arrest of the officer whose careless act contributed to her death. And in sports, Senegal's first choice keeper has been signed by Chelsea on a £22 million 5-year deal. That's all we have for you in this bulletin. Join us at 10 for another bulletin. Thank you for watching.